Hello, hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Amber Serpent. My name is Gulvig. So glad that you're joining me here today. All right, so today we have a very special full moon tarot reading in which we're going to be taking a look at this lunar eclipse that's happening on the 19th of November. And this particular lunar eclipse, it's in Taurus and the sun is in Scorpio. And there's a real possibility with this lunar eclipse of tangible, real change, real shift. So if things have been feeling stagnant, if you've been feeling like, I don't know, stuck, this is a really good lunar eclipse that could open up the doorway, a portal, a gateway to something new and to get some clarity from the midst of whatever chaos might be ensuing. So let's take a look and let's use the tarot to get some intuitive information on how we might use this lunar eclipse energy to serve our best and highest good. Okay? So just join me in setting that intention that we're going to be using this time to get information on how we might utilize this lunar eclipse in Taurus to serve our best and highest good. Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay. So we have 4 cards that came out. Okay. So the sun is in Scorpio, and Scorpio is associated with transformation. It is associated with the planet transformation, which is Pluto. And so here we have the first 3 cards that are pulled, very much, I think, align with kind of the Scorpio type of energy. This is the energy of death and rebirth. It's the energy that says, hey, this is what you need to look at. And it's the energy that takes the venom and makes it into the antidote. So we have the Hanged Man here. The Hanged Man is about a need to take a new perspective. Yeah, there we go. It's about a need to take a new perspective and literally look at things from a new angle. Look at the situation or situations at a new angle. And these challenges or situations that we might be navigating through, they pertain to our past hurts and wounds. We got the 10 of Swords, kind of an intense imagery here, where this is about betrayal, disappointment, and perhaps how people have let us down, because we have the Lovers card, and that is in reverse. And the Lovers card oftentimes also has to do about lies either that we tell ourselves and or lies that we've been told, or perhaps lies that we've told others. But here at the end of the day, we have all of this energy here that's a little bit like, I don't know if I'm like down with that kind of energy. But we have the silver lining, which is the Judgment card. And the Judgment card is right side up. So this is a call. It's a new beginning. It's a rebirth, if you will. The figures in the bottom of the card here are rising up from their graves, rising up from the ashes to be resurrected, to be reincarnated, and to be transformed into life again. So there is a good possibility with this lunar eclipse that we may have a lot of clarity around what it is that may be keeping us back, how we might be limiting ourselves. We might have some clarity around relationships that neither need to be transformed or perhaps need to be let go. And there's definitely this reward if we're willing to do the work and willing to walk through that crucible where we allow ourselves to be tempered by the flames of transformation so that we can rise again like the phoenix, like the individuals in the judgment card. There is a tendency with human beings is that a lot of times it's not always even clarity that, or the lack of clarity that keeps us back. It's the resistance to following through with doing the tough work. And in this particular case, the judgment card would say that we may be perhaps a little bit more willing to go through kind of these trials and tribulations because it's we're at a point where it's not that we know it's worth it, we feel that it's worth it. We can see the light at the end of the tunnel. Let's get some additional information here. Seven of Swords reversed. Seven of Swords is oftentimes about conflict, and usually conflict with others. When it's reversed, the conflict is more internally based. And in this particular case, also what's coming to my mind is that the conflict is lessening. We are just done fighting. We're just done. And then the Two of Swords says what Taurus has to say is, how can I make a tangible decision? We're going to be at a crossroads, my friends. So we may have some clarity, and there may be some definitely some inspiration to make some real tangible changes and to put a plan in place to take those incremental next steps. But there's going to be this element of the unknown. And the cards are saying that that's okay. That's actually the beautiful thing about it, is that we may not know exactly how everything is going to pan out after we make these decisions. And so let's get some additional information on the Two of Swords here. Four of Swords. The Four of Swords is about a need to rest, to meditate, and to go within for all the answers. So there are some decisions that need to be made, but there isn't any pressure to make the decisions on like the long plan, the long game. There's no pressure to make that decision right now. This is more about letting go and cleaning house than it is about like creating the new thing or knowing exactly what it is that we're doing. In fact, the cards are saying it's okay to not know. And in fact, that might be the transformation itself, is to let go of a little bit of control. Let's see what else here. Yeah. So what's really interesting about the Judgment card is in this particular deck, there is this symbol. I don't know if you can see it, but right there in the flowers, they have little tiny skulls in the middle. So it's definitely about this death and rebirth. And Taurus is about beauty, and it's about wealth. So one of the things we might be contemplating is our relationship to our livelihood, to our career, to how we bring in money, and our relationship to money itself. That may be something that we might be examining. And Taurus is about groundedness. It's an earth sign, and it's about creating a real solid foundation. So it's okay to take your time. There might be some of this antsiness around this full moon to just make the changes already. We want to see what it is that our heart is wanting, and we want to see those changes immediately. So there might be a little bit of itchiness around this, but the cards are saying it's okay to take your time. Taurus, is one of its mantras is slow and steady wins the race. And the Four of Swords is definitely saying that as well. That take time for you. This is very much an internal kind of full moon. The full moon is in Taurus at 9 degrees. Number 9 is associated with the Hermit card in the tarot. And the Hermit is the card about going within. He is the character that goes into his cave to read and to contemplate and to meditate. And he might have his alchemical experimentation going on. And he's doing all of these things because he knows that he is the actual vessel in which all transformation begins, that all of the answers are within. He knows this. And so he knows that he must go into the cave to separate himself somewhat from the daily ongoing and the daily hustle and bustle, and maybe even take time for himself away from his relationships in order to get clarity, in order to slow down enough so that he can hear the whispers of his intuition, and so that to slow down and to pause so his blessings can catch up to him. And that is definitely what the cards are saying, with the Four of Swords being about meditation, about rest, contemplation, the Judgment card giving us a call to our spirit to resurrect from the ashes, from stagnancy, and to rise again into new potential. But there isn't a pressure to take immediate action, so to speak. Go ahead and this is a great time to write in your journal. It's a great time to make some plans. It's a great time to make art. It's a great time to write. It's a wonderful time to communicate, especially in a more so in a very personal way. Like if we need to bounce things off of each other, to find somebody who's a trusted confidant. Sometimes we need that reflection in order to be able to work things out. That is actually kind of a hermit-y kind of way of communicating with others, because we're not going out there and expressing ourselves to the world. We're getting very clear on what it is that we want to create. We're going within before we expand and say, and come into that place where we come out of the cave and say, this is the big aha moment. I think the aha moment might come next month when we go into the solar eclipse that comes next month. Because the lunar eclipses are more about internal kind of themes. And with this full moon, the full moon is usually a time in which the moon then releases her energy, and everything that has been building up over the last month is then released, and that gets interrupted with the lunar eclipse. And this is also the longest lunar eclipse that we've had in, I don't remember, it was over 500 years. So this lunar eclipse is actually going to last 3.5 hours, something around that. Now it's a really long time. So this is going to be a very long and dark evening. And dark doesn't necessarily have to mean evil or negative. Darkness also gives us time to pause and to rest. And we need to pause, and we need to have that darkness in order to gestate. What I mean by gestation is to take those seeds of what it is that we are wanting to create and really nurture them. And Taurus is about nurturing. Taurus is about nourishment. Taurus is about self-care. Taurus is about pleasure. Taurus is associated with Venus, and the planet of Venus is about beauty. It's about pleasure. It's about what we might consider luxury, but it's about feeling good. And it's about desire. And one of the things that I've learned over this last year is the importance of how beauty can reignite, reinvigorate the heart. So this is very much a time in which we have the opportunity to heal from some very significant wounds. And what I'm seeing here in the cards is wounds that may have been there for a really long time. If there's some deep stuff that needs to be healed, even childhood wounds, now is an excellent time to take the time to do that. So seeing a counselor, an energy healer, a body worker, somebody who does shamanic healing, a hypnotherapist, a counselor, it's the folks of that nature who can help us to put the pieces back together and to integrate these experiences in a way that are more healthy and productive versus trying to move forward with these anchors of wounds dragging us back. That's when I see the 10 of swords, I often look at the swords in the back as being these energetic tethers or cords that are pulling a person back into their past and making it very difficult for them to move forward. In fact, the individual almost collapsing with the exhaustion of trying to move forward with all of this resistance behind him. And in this particular case, we have the opportunity to cut those cords. We have the opportunity to free ourselves and to perhaps take a new perspective on those wounds so that they can be transmuted from the venom to the medicine. Perhaps taking a look at how some of those wounds and shadows may also be the very thing that might have created some of the most beautiful characteristics that we consider to be our light. And what I mean by this is, like, for example, if somebody has had a difficult past where they are always the person that is always the fix-it person, the person who everyone comes to, the person who's always going above and beyond and is always making sure that everybody's taken care of and that everything gets done. Well, that person probably has some really wonderful characteristics due to that experience. They may have had some wounds in their past where that they were the only person that they could rely on. So there might be trust issues. There might be codependency issues. There may be control issues. There might be some things that are associated with that. But on the flip side, this person probably has a really great work ethic. They're probably very loyal. They're usually very wise. So this is all about balancing. And that's what the Hanged Man is inviting us to do. Take a new perspective. Reach out for some assistance. And let's integrate and transmute those past wounds that are especially associated with relationships and how we relate to ourselves and others, and money. Money's actually a big theme in this lunar eclipse because of Taurus. And release the conflict. Like, let's stop fighting with ourselves. It's just like, put down the stick and then take some time to contemplate what options you have and start exploring that. I look at the relation, this energy here as almost like being an excavation project. So like, this is like an emotional, mental, and subconscious excavation project. And when an archaeologist goes into a dig, he's like, he or she is digging through, whatever the site is, and there's like little pieces of treasure. So you may find clay and pottery that's going to allow them to see like what era this is all from. They're getting some vital information from all of these pieces and it's very methodical and it's not a fast moving pace. Like, brushing off all the little stones and all of the little fragments, going through and sifting all of the pieces. And then you find the bits of treasure. And as you're sifting through and you're brushing off, there's all of this debris that you're letting go of, or that you're perhaps maybe repurpose in some way, as far as like spiritual processing goes. But there's this thing that's happening with this lunar eclipse where we get to be able to separate the wheat from the shaft, where we're being able to take a look at all the different pieces and even redefine who it is that we want to be, how we want to show up in the world. This is a very, very powerful and very personal lunar eclipse. So, my friends, with all that being said, take the time for you. Take the time to slow down. The time to slow down and the investment that you make in that time for you is going to be well worth it. It will pay off in dividends that will quadruple whatever investment that you've put into it. And if there is money that goes behind it to reach out for assistance to help with this process, it too will very much pay off in this particular lunar alignment. So put yourself first, take time for you. And it's okay if you need to go into your cave. It's okay if you need to pause, take time to rest, take time to meditate, take time to go into those dark recesses, go into those places that we may not typically look, and do some excavation work. You might find some treasure. On that note, this weekend, me and the astrologer, my friend Evelyn Steeb, we are doing a full moon ceremony on November 19th at 6:30 at Everything Just Rocks Crystal Shop. And the theme of this is very closely aligned to what's come up in the tarot reading, in that we will be working with the deity Hermes, who is associated with Mercury. Hermes is one of the only gods that can go between all of the different worlds. He can go to Mount Olympus, where the gods are. He can go into the underworld, and he can go into the realm of men and people and nature in the Middle Earth. So we're going to be asking Hermes to guide us into the specific place that we need to go within to find that treasure. He's going to help us excavate. And then we're going to be going into ceremony where I will be taking I will be acting the role of Hestia, where we will have the sacred flame, because Hestia is the goddess of hearth and home. She's very much associated with Taurus energy because of this. And we will be casting into the flames whatever the shaft is and being able to keep those treasures. Nothing's for free, folks. There's always something that we must give in order to receive. So I'm really excited for tomorrow, and it's at Everything Just Rocks, 6:30 p.m. Please join us. It's $18, and I will be putting a link below in this YouTube video so that if you'd like to join us, you can reserve your place online. Also, I'm doing some reading events also at Everything Just Rocks from noon to 6 at Everything Just Rocks. I'm doing tarot and rune readings. And on Sunday from noon to 6, I'm also providing tarot and rune readings there as well. And I will be providing, again, another link so that you can reserve your time if you would like to join me for an in-person reading. It's a busy, busy week, folks. It's such a magical week, though. I do really hope that whatever it is that you decide, that you at least take some time for yourself to slow down, to meditate, and to do some research within in order to find those treasures. Thank you so much for joining me here, and I look forward to seeing you next week for Rune Reading Wednesday, where let's just take a look and see how the energy is, how it's transitioning. So take care, everyone. Bye-bye.